Hi, I'm Dan Sanguinetti.
And I'm Russell Lee.
And this is Film Rhapsody. On this week's episode of Film Rhapsody, Russell and I sit down and speak with writer, director, actor, and all-round top bloke, Patrick J Gallagher. When it comes to longevity in the Canberra film industry, no one comes close to matching the heights of the one Patrick J Gallagher, or just Pat, as we lovingly call him. With years of experience both in front and behind the camera, an extended tour at the Parliamentary Media Department, not to mention a storied career as a singing and dancing actor on the theatre stage, Pat, as humble as a man can be, has become a local legend. Pat wrote and directed our first foray into zombie apocalypses with the feature film Theatre of the Dead. But his standing in the Canberra film industry can be defined by his multiple showings in the top 12 of the annual Lights Canberra Action Filmmaking Festival. His films displayed his love and interest in all things nerdy, and frequently explored stories of adventure and mystery. Russell and I sat down with Pat recently to talk about his years of experience from the trenches of the movie Battlefield to the heights of Australia's political mountain. Welcome back to Film Rhapsody, Pat. The last time you were here in the studio, you helped us to provide a voice for the narrator in our Season 1 finale episode of Alice.
I certainly did. Seems like just moments ago.
It really does, yeah. One of the reasons why I asked you to be part of that was because you've got this amazing voice that I know is connected to your long career as an onstage actor and your connection with the theatre. And so I really want to explore a little bit about your relationship with theatre, not only as an actor, but I guess there are some signposting directions to a particular little zombie film that happened once upon a time. So, yeah, I mean, what got you into theatre in the first place?
It was just something I was always interested in. Back in Wagga, where I'm from, I was unemployed for a while. I'd done my media training course and was still looking for a job. So I decided to audition for a local theatre show, got in, had a really great time doing it, and just took off from there. Once I moved to Canberra, the theatre scene here is absolutely amazing and lots of opportunities. So I started up again once I moved over here and just haven't stopped.
What was the first show that you did in Canberra?
In Canberra, it was Amadeus with Paper Moon Productions.
Right, and who did you play?
I played Salieri's valet. I think I had about 2 lines. But it was a case, Jeffrey Borney played Salieri, who is actually the main character in front of Amadeus himself. And he's just an amazing local actor, so it was a great experience. The rest of the cast was really good. So that was a good stepping point for Canberra Theatre for me.
Could you estimate how many stage productions you've done?
I actually counted up just recently because I knew I was getting close to the 50 mark.
Yeah.
And I have done 51. I'm rehearsing for the 52nd. Wow. Number 51 was the recent production of The Producers with Daryl Summers in the lead.
Oh,
so
cool.
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How was Daryl?
He was a lovely guy. He was very, friendly with the cast. He wasn't standoffish or anything like that, didn't pull on airs. So he was really good to work with. That's cool. Which is good. There seems to be that case in the past few years of doing pro-am productions where they will get in a professional known actor to play one of the main roles, which is a good experience for the people doing the show, and it gives a bit more incentive for an audience to come along and see the show.
How long did that go for?
That was only a 3-week run.
I guess if you're an actor just starting out in Canberra, what's the best way to sort of get yourself involved in these things?
These days, there's several Facebook groups that will post notices of auditions and occasional classes that some of the places hold. Just get on those groups, look for the auditions and go and audition. Odds are you probably won't get in the first couple of times you try unless you happen to be really good. But your face will be seen, the directors will get to know you. You'll also gain confidence just from the very act of auditioning. So that first audition is probably really going to suck, but the more you do it, the more confident you get, the more you'll know what to expect from the audition process, and the better you'll come across, and they'll start remembering your face.
Cool.
Most actors, I guess, would be aiming for TV and film. But would you advise them to start in theatre and get their education there?
It tends to be a bit of a like in Canberra especially, the group of theatre actors and the group of screen actors tends to be two very separate groups. And I actually haven't figured out why that is. It is a different, like, acting for the stage is very different to acting from the screen. With stage acting, you have to put across an expression with your entire face, your entire body, because you're trying to project to somebody that's 50 feet or so away. Whereas with screen acting, the camera's right in your face, so you can be very, very subtle. So it tends to be a case of one group tends to have difficulty moving into the other group, depending on where their training's been.
Do you think there's something we can do to try and bring them together?
That's actually a good question. Possibly, if you do something along the lines of just workshops where you invite filmmakers and you invite the actors and just do short 5-page scripts or something like that, where the actors get a chance to see what it's like to work on screen, the directors and local screenwriters get a chance to see the talent that's out there. And the other thing is local filmmakers to try and aim for stories that involve not just 20-somethings in their own age group.
Yeah.
That tends to be a case if you'll see a casting call for a local film and there's a 23, 25, 18, 17, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You're confident playing a 20-year-old?
Shave the beard?
Even with a dye job, the grey still shows through, I'm afraid. But there are some very strong older actors in town.
Oh, yeah.
And if somebody could come up with a good story for those people, you would end up with a very good film, I have no doubt.
So your day job is something that I didn't really understand for a long time, and we've known
a lot of people still don't.
we've like sort of known each other for quite a while, and I wasn't sure what you would do at Parliament House as part of is it the Department of Parliamentary Services?
Department of Parliamentary Services Broadcasting Section.
Right, and so do you get to film the Prime Minister? Is that what it is?
It basically we do the official coverage of all things parliamentary.
Yep.
So if you see, the easiest one to explain is if you see Question Time on the ABC, that's actually us producing all that content. ABC simply takes the feed. For the longest time when I first started working there, we had to educate all the politicians and even secretariats and the rest of them that we weren't the ABC. We are a separate entity. We're part of the parliamentary staff. So we're there, whoever's in government, and our job is to provide unbiased coverage of Parliament. So we have rules and guidelines we have to follow for the coverage, and that goes out to whoever needs it. We'll cover press conferences that the press gallery will take. We do committees, television coverage. We also travel interstate doing the audio recording that gets transcribed for Hansard, for various committees. So it's, as I said, basically anything that audio or visual wise that needs to be recorded for Parliament, we do.
And how long have you been doing that?
23 years.
And
a long time. It's
how many governments have you would that make it that you've been around?
Counting governments or prime ministers?
More to the point of asking how many coups.
Yeah, I was going to say governments or prime ministers. I started when Howard was in.
Yep.
So 96.
Yep.
So I know what's that? I think it's 3 governments and God knows how many
32 prime ministers.
Something
Howard
like that.
begot.
Yeah. So I've been around for a while. Seen, I've been there for longer than most of the pollies that are there these days.
Yeah.
You have tenure.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I got my little 20-year service pin a couple of years back. They do give those to you.
Oh, cool. If someone was interested in that sort of realm of the media industry, how could they get involved in that? I mean, obviously, post-graduation from a screen studies or something might be helpful. But what would you say is a great way for someone who's interested to, get involved and try and get some work?
Our section, because we're a reasonably small area, there's not that many jobs going, and most of the people in our section come from other areas of media. Like I came from local regional news. A couple of the audio guys came from radio. Several of the guys started up in the press gallery.
Yeah.
So we tend to take our staff from people who've already had previous experience.
Yeah. So in a way, if you, you work your way through, your first job maybe might be sort of, helping out on Win News or something like that. And eventually,
that was me.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. So, it's just, it's something to work towards. It's not necessarily an entry level, straight out of uni position.
I don't think we've ever taken anyone at that level.
What's been some of the highlights of that job? I remember you got to film Obama at one stage.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Was he nice?
I didn't get to meet him, unfortunately, but he walked within just a couple of... That's the thing. You tend to, doing the camera work, you tend to be in positions where you get quite close to the people. So, Obama just walked a few feet in front of me. I didn't even have my own Secret Service guy, which I did have when I did Bush a few years earlier. They actually had a Secret Service guy standing next to me because the president was going to be so close. Obama, they didn't care.
Was he nice?
He seemed very nice. I'll give you that one since it's not Australian politics. Same deal with the Queen a few times now. That's the thing. I've been in the presence of a lot of heads of state. We actually get like our Prime Minister and all the ministers use our studio facilities if they have to record a piece of camera for something. So we get to chat to them. So it's interesting. And then you're also on the ground for a lot of the sort of historical things like Apology Day, when the same-sex marriage passed, and you're actually there, you're seeing things that are happening. Sometimes it can get quite emotional. Yeah. There was one about the stolen generation, which I sort of had a I'm not crying, you're crying expression on my face as I was standing behind the camera. It's a lot of the time it's real boring. Yeah. But you do get those highlights that you're in place for things that most people will never get to see.
You do get to travel a little because you do a lot of.
Yeah, that's that. I'm not sure it's a highlight, but it is a perk of the job. If we have to travel, we get to the committees will come out. We get notified of what committees are coming up, and then we get to put up our hands and say if we want to do them, and the boss will say, okay, you can do that one, you can do that one. So you get to. I try and pick ones that are in locations where I haven't been before. A few weeks ago, I spent nearly a week in Tasmania because there are a couple of committees up in northern Tasmania in Devonport and Launceston. So I got to travel around there for almost a week. Then I've been out to mid North Queensland sort of areas, the remote areas. Then you get places like Albury and the less exciting ones.
Scenic Dubbo.
Yeah, but it does mean I like choosing the driving ones. Yeah, because that means I get to actually take in the scenery and see more of the countryside than just the city I'm in. Whereas, say you go down to Melbourne, you just fly in, get a taxi to the CBD where the committees usually are, do the committee, fly back. Yeah,
the way I got to know you was through a just a little festival that sort of has kept us busy at least in the early stages of my career as a filmmaker, and I believe at one point, and I still think you hold the record, as most entries selected for the top 12 of Lights, Camera, Action.
I think that's a fairly safe bet.
Yeah. How many entry films have you made that have made it into the top 12 of Lights, Camera, Action?
I missed out on the first year because we were all still trying to work out the rules. I didn't use all 10 items.
Okay. I know there was a 10-year stretch.
Yeah.
Where it was every year for 10 years.
And then I didn't do this past year, last year, 2019. I didn't actually make the finals in 2018.
What?
That was I had this big,
How do you live with yourself?
It's horrible. No, what happened was, if you've seen any of the films I do for LCA, I tend to go big and epic and try and do the most I can with the storyline. Yeah. 2018, I had a big epic thing. It was actually a sequel to the previous year's
Yeah.
one, and I only had one weekend where I could shoot extensively.
Yeah.
And that was the weekend that it just started bucketing down for the
Right.
entire weekend.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten a couple of scenes shot, but all my exteriors still had to be done.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be able to shoot anything during the week.
Yeah.
So I was just totally wiped out.
Yeah.
So I rallied during the actual production week. On the final weekend, so the last 3 days, I figured out something I could basically shoot in my living room, quickly got the cast together, got the script together, shot it really quick and dirty, and submitted that. So at least I got something, I got something in, but for that year, wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Which I'm not too worried about, because that was one of the things I love about LCA, especially being involved from the beginning, is just seeing how good the films have been getting year after year. Like it just continually improves. And I think Marissa's got to be given a lot of credit for her contribution to actually improving the state of filmmaking in Canberra.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think we had Marissa in last year on one of our episodes, and we talked about how it has got much more challenging, and that's probably the best thing for Canberra and for the festival. And the fact is that, you know, it's much more about storytelling than simply just trying to get the items together in a scavenger's done. It's much more about, you know, telling a great film now. So yeah, no, that's right. But I mean, your films are, for Lights, Camera, Action, were iconic. Like I think Brotherhood of the Y has continued to be my favorite, and something that I enjoyed seeing every year when you made them. How many of those did you end up?
It was only a trilogy.
It was only a trilogy,
and then it sort of morphed. The base concept sort of morphed into the Cthulhu Williams one.
Yep.
From a couple of years ago, and then I was going to follow up with another sequel with 2018.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about possibly having a crossover event between the Brotherhood of the Y and Cthulhu Williams.
What would you say out of all your films for Lights, Camera, Action was your favourite? What one still holds great memories for you from the production and I guess from its as a finished product?
That would still be Brotherhood of the Y too, the one that I actually managed to win.
Yeah.
With I was really happy with the way it turned out, with the reception it got. It nearly killed me. For the 10 days of the competition, I literally did 16-hour days for 10 days straight.
Yeah.
And I remember handing the film in at the end, and Marissa just looked at me and goes, "You look really tired." I said, "Yeah, no kidding." But it paid off.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's the one where you destroy Telstra Tower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the first one to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we had Will fighting skeletons. We had Soren in it, who's down in Melbourne these days acting. So
yeah. No, that was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. I also remember you helped out another filmmaker and you played
Doc.
Doc Brown, which I will always remember.
It was fun.
Yeah,
it was one of those other ones where like I had my own film to do.
Yeah,
and the guys asked me if I'd play Doc for Back to the Capital.
Yeah,
and I said, yeah, sure, why not? And it was the year. That's right. It was the year of the first Brotherhood of the Y film.
Yes.
And when I was shooting that with Lee and Dallas, I got horrendously sunburned on my forehead. I looked like a bloody Klingon. By the time we shot Back to the Capital, it was like my skin was starting to peel. And so we just tried to cover it up as best we could with the makeup. And I had to. I'm not sure if half that.
Through the shit.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if half that performance was due to the residual sunstroke I was still suffering.
As a result of Lights, Camera, Action, I guess that's how our filmmaking relationship kind of grew, because there was a group of filmmakers in Canberra who said, let's try and make feature films happen. It was very early days in Canberra's trying to create some sort of industry that is not just the corporate industry or the marketing and advertising. And it was an attempt to be, well, I guess you could say our own sort of Hollywood, but we were never close, in all honesty. No, and we're still not close. But the dream was there, and you came to the group with a little script called Theatre of the Dead, and somehow it turned into this big thing that we did.
I honestly think, it got a bit bigger than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But the whole point of Theatre of the Dead originally was meant to be to kick things off, and from that try to get the ball rolling, which unfortunately we sort of stalled after that. But other people eventually picked up the ball. But I think for that element of it, I think it succeeded in that it got people introduced to each other. It got some people into discovering skills that they didn't realise they had, and their skills that they went on to develop. So it worked as a gestation point, even if the film was a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had I always have something like this, something about the way we went about it, like the experience itself.
It was very cowboy.
Yeah, and I have rewatched it a few times every now and then just for prosperity, and there is some really cool stuff we tried, and for us having so little, and built on just giving our time to try and make something, we did well. We
crammed a lot into 16 days.
17 days of filming. Which I still think is crazy on how it actually happened. I mean, it's actually, working on projects now, I would love to be able to get a group of people that committed to stay and take off work and just exist for 16 days.
That was one of the things I loved at the end of production on Theatre of the Dead. I think if we'd asked people to go for another week, there was that much enthusiasm behind it, that they probably would have stayed, or most of them anyway.
Yeah. I guess one of the things I always sort of wish is that, we could have found ways to keep movement going on what we were trying to achieve. Yeah. But there is also the element there that it wasn't a sustainable thing.
I think the problem was, like, you and I and a couple of other people invested ourselves in Theatre of the Dead, and it turned out that I think probably we were the more motivated people in the group. So while we were distracted by Theatre of the Dead, there was nobody else who had the motivation
to do the
keep
next
things
step.
moving.
Yeah. Which is a shame. And I mean, where things are at now, and with the establishment of Film Plus and with Screen Canberra, facilitating some funds in some way, and those funds are not super accessible and they're not just available to everyone. There is some remnants of what we tried to do back in 10 years ago almost. It's sort of kind of exists in the way of what Film Plus is. Perhaps Film Plus is now what maybe it should have been. But
but that's the thing. That first iteration, everybody was still learning.
Yeah.
And I think what we've got happening now with Film Plus and other stuff is the culmination of that the people who started learning back then have developed their skills, like you with actually producing several films now, continuing on and learning from each project you've done. Yeah. So that I don't think Film Plus as it is now could have existed back then.
I agree. It's good. It's what I always will say, and will be the in my biography, is that one day when I'm famous enough to have one and Russell finishes writing it, is that even though there will always be disappointments and even to a point of slight humiliation when it came to Theatre of the Dead, and when we tried to take it to an international place and people laughed at it as if what do you want us to do with this, and and I'm like, but it's cool, it's fun, like, but so is the other millions of other zombie films out there.
That's the thing. I think we also just sort of missed the boat a bit.
But I will always say that it was the thing that started it off. It was the thing that created. I learned so much, and the people that I met during that, I still communicate and talk with and share with, and it's a big part of what building a community is about. And I think that's perhaps the most important thing. So yeah, no, I mean, it is something I'm always will proud, and as those who visit Sanguinetti Media's office, there is the poster up on the wall. There is a photo that was, I don't think you saw it when you walked in. There is a photo that was on display at the National Film and Sign Archives at one
I've got
stage.
the rest of those at home.
Yeah, and that's up on the wall, and it will be, be what it is. It's part of our history and a part of our story, and something that I know I'll always be proud of. And
it may not have succeeded as much as we would have wanted to succeed, but I think for the practical reason that it was done in the first place, I think it was a success. So,
yeah, I might just quickly add on to the bit about in Cannes, because did I ever tell you what happened in Cannes? Like with Miguel and
I was sort of following. I know you tried to give it to Troma or something.
Oh yeah, well, Tremor were lovely about it. They just said they weren't interested. But no, because we went to Cannes in, I can't even remember the year now. But we took Theatre of the Dead with us to try and get some sort of international distribution of some sort. Yeah. And when we started showing the film, the first thing everyone said was, that girl on the front of the poster is amazing. We want to see this. And so, and like Emma Gleeson, who played our lead, and it also was the photography of Robert Copper, I think really sold the project to a lot of people on initial, like judging the book by the cover. They look at it and go, oh,
that poster of Emma and the big close-up of Steve's face.
Yeah, everyone was like, yeah, that's cool. That's really amazing. And so, but then they watched the trailer, and we were reminded how small Australia really is as a filmmaking place. There is such a diverse world out there in filmmaking, and for us to think that people would just instantly go, yeah, it's great because it's a piece of content. It wasn't as simple as that. They wanted to know if we had a P&A budget, which is prints and advertising. They wanted to know if we've got travel. They want to know if we had a travel budget for all our cast to travel to festivals and films. They want to know if we had a festival budget. And as soon as we started asking these questions, and we were like, no, but
got the film.
we got the film, and we can get it to you. And we like if you say yes, we can get that money. Like, that's no problem. And that's when they kind of like looked at us and smiled and patted us on our head and said, well, it's well done for making a film.
Yeah.
And they watched the film. I know they watched the film because the little ticker on the Vimeo went up, and it existed, and they watched it, but unfortunately we couldn't get a deal signed, which was just disappointing and sad.
And that's another thing. It was for you a learning experience of it's not just getting the film made.
That's right.
Where it ends.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes on beyond that point.
Yeah.
Which you've got more of a handle on now.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I learnt from Theatre of the Dead's experience taking it to an international market, we got it right in some degree when it came to me and my mates' first zombie apocalypse, because we thought about marketing way before, and we had some money. Not much, mind you. We didn't learn that well. Not yet. But we were getting there. And it's funny because this podcast is part of the marketing of what we're trying to do for the next film. So it's kind of, this is a result of learning. But yeah, the opportunity to go to Cannes, learn about the film's potential market was definitely eye-opening, and I'm grateful for that experience. And and you know what, Theatre of the Dead can be watched. Yeah. It's available online. It's been pirated, so somebody pirated it, put it up somewhere. It exists. It's there.
It's out there, yeah.
And if you want to watch it, surely it's pretty easy to find. It's actually been a little while since you've made a film.
It has.
Is there a reason? Have I caused you to hate filmmaking? Is this my fault?
No, it's not your fault entirely.
Entirely, okay.
Yeah. No, it is. There has been a bit of burnout.
Yeah.
The simple fact is, I'm looking at the films that are coming through these days.
Yeah.
And as a director, I honestly have to be self-aware that I'm not up to the same par as these kids who are starting to make stuff now. I did was fortunate enough to come across the niche of being a first AD.
Yeah.
That I think I'm quite good at.
You are one of the best, to be honest.
But after doing Mates and Locks of Love and a couple of other shorts as first AD, I sort of came to the realisation I'm good at it, but it's a young guy's game. Being a first AD, there's a lot of stress and pressure in that role. So I decided to just step back a bit. I have tried to keep up with LCA, but not due to filmmaking things, but work things.
Yeah.
They moved the dates of LCA a fair few years back, and then at work they moved the Senate estimates committees, which for me is a time when I can't get any time off. I'm working 14 hours a day to the week. Like for the past few years, they've actually coincided. Exactly. So I just obviously couldn't take the week off.
Do you think that's kind of conspiracy theory? Like he's
possibly.
He's been here 23 times. We've got to move things so we can't.
Possibly. I mean, we'll see what happens going forward. They moved it for. Actually, I probably can't say anything because it's in the future. I can't talk about next year.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I was going to say that they've actually moved the dates for next year of estimates,
right?
So they don't coincide. But I'm doing the rock musical Tommy.
Oh, okay.
At the time that LCA's on.
Oh, okay.
The Who trumps.
Yeah. Yep. Also, I've been looking at the same sort of thing you guys have in podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to formulate ideas for a fictional podcast, sort of along the lines of a serial, but with a supernatural tinge to it. There are a couple of similar ones out there, like Limetown. So I'm not breaking new ground, but I've got an idea that I think might work. I've just got to...
Is that by any chance, and I know we're wrapping up, but is that by any chance related to your book series that you released? Because
no,
it's a self-published, self-published series of books.
Yeah, the books aren't fiction; they're all fact.
Yeah.
They're basically compilations of newspaper articles on various subjects, like Loch Ness Monster, Yowies and bunyips in Australia, a serial killer who was operating in London at the same time as Jack the Ripper that hardly anybody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
The thing that fascinates me about this guy is that, for Jack the Ripper, you've got this massive laundry list of suspects. This guy, they never had a single suspect. He was literally leaving body parts lying around the streets of London.
Okay.
And he was just overshadowed by Jack the Ripper because Jack the Ripper had very violent things happening.
So it was like the same time?
At the same, a couple of his murders coincided with Ripper murders, so they had to differentiate the MOs.
They didn't think it was the same person?
No. The MO was very different. Like this guy was chopping up bodies and leaving the parts. Like one of the main torso parts of a body he left in the basement of a construction site, and that construction site was the new headquarters for Scotland Yard. So this guy had balls.
Yeah, awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
So basically, I've just been looking for things that interest me, and it becomes a case of I want to do the deep dive research for my own enjoyment.
Yeah.
And so I ended up figuring, while I'm at it, I'm collecting all these articles and stuff. I might as well compile them into books and put them out. And they just sort of earn me about $30 or $40 a month.
Oh, that's better than
we
don't make any money from books.
The other thing is because I put them out on Kindle and as print on demand through Amazon. I know that there's a few hundred books out there on people's shelves with my name on them, which is a nice feeling.
That's really cool. Dream,
yeah. So sorry, I just remembered. I forgot about your books. They're really cool. But so obviously not related. So the podcast is something a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, it still deals with the weird shit that is my forte.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not inspired by the books.
Do you have a name for the podcast yet? Or is that still in development?
The Rabbit Hole Tapestry is the working title at the moment.
A massive thank you to Pat for sitting down with us on this episode. If you want to learn more about Pat's books, head on over to Facebook and search for Patrick J Gallagher. You can also learn more about Pat's work as a photographer on Facebook by searching Patopia Photography. And don't forget, you can support this podcast on Patreon by subscribing for just $1 a month. Your patronage gets you access to new episodes early, plus extra exclusive content only available to Patreon supporters. Hit us up at patreon.com/Sanguinary Media. You've been listening to Film Rhapsody.
Film Rhapsody is produced by Russell Lee and Dan Sanguinetti for Sanguinetti Media. Find our home at sanguinettimedia.com.au.